Good afternoon. It is Tuesday. It is 5 o'clock. That means Gray and I are off the clock and onto a bar stool at our appropriate bar of choice, still socially distanced for both geographic and epidemiological reasons. But we're still having a happy hour at the Old Timer Tavern. If you'll notice the fancy new logo to set us apart from the average Dungeons and Dragons podcast. My name is Rob, aka Lantern Noir. I stream irregularly and mostly D&D content these days. And with me is the amazing
Graybeard or Graybeard Tavern. And I variety stream on Sunday mornings, do this talk show, and I'm over on Indoor Adventures on Thursday nights.
How has that been going for you?
Good. We did our I always forget what it's called, Paramount episode last Thursday. This is the finale. And then I think we're taking a week off, and then we're coming back with City of Mists. So that'll be interesting. It's a newer game system. We're decided that we were going to take our monthly game, and we were going to do like a 10 episode arc that I'll be GMing.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been GMing the once a month, but it's been a completely improv show. So now I actually have to do a story arc, which I suppose I've got 2 weeks to come up with. So I should probably do that. Though I guess I'll ask the players and see if they want to continue with the completely improvised things. Because it was sometimes it would be like, hey, tonight, guys, you know, you're not going to be in it and you're not going to be in it. You've got to come up with new characters that were in this other character's life in the 1700s because we're going back in time.
Dun, dun,
You know,
dun.
and so, yeah, so literally they would have like an hour to get their shite together, you know, before the game to be like, okay, I'm going to be, you know, Rasputin. Or Baba Yaga or King Arthur.
Oh, we're swinging for the fences then, huh?
Oh, dude, it has been a really wild and fun ride. They stopped an evil gnome who was going to be the impetus of World War II, and the rise of the Nazis. Okay, so
It always goes back to the Nazis.
It always goes back to the Nazis. When we first started, I did a lot of scene change and stuff. So like at one point I had the big chair. I used to have a really big chair, and I had the big chair turned around, and when we came back from break, I pulled the cover off the camera, and all they saw was the back of the chair, and we had stopped on a cliffhanger, and when I turned the chair around, I have a 4-foot gnome. I have a 4-foot gnome that was sitting in the chair, you know, with a dead like gnome eyes type thing, and then I gave him the little, you know, Nazi voice of like Herzog, you know, kind of thing. And so then they had to deal with this gnome, and they ended up burning down the library to stop the spread of his little red books of Nazi propaganda. And it's always been, I always say it's like Dark Shadows, the last episode of The Prisoner, and like Supernatural Hellboy, all sort of like put in a blender and, you know, pureed, you know, until it's just yeah, exactly, until it's a paste. So
Gotcha. Well, welcome to the show here, and here. Good to have you here in the audience chat, hanging out. We love it when people come and join us with questions or thoughts, especially when we have a dedicated mailbag show where we're going to be kind of going through our mailbag and seeing what comes up. Last week, we actually wrapped up our Candlekeep story, and we have put it on hiatus for the next 3 weeks. So one of my players is going to settle in Sweden. She is still okay. So she requested an expedited passport, and they told her 6 to 8 weeks. She's on like week 14 now, and doesn't have it. And so she can't even apply for her visa until she has the passport. So hopefully she'll be settled before our 3 week hiatus is up. But yeah, it was a really, really emotional episode, partially because we knew it was like the end for a while.
Right.
They had a lot of debate, a lot of discussion. They got back. They tracked down the hag. They were prepared. They were really. I almost had them willing to carry the hag's pendant into the prime material plane, as a way to control the demons and keep them from infecting everyone. And Lenarius, who's playing Jansen, was like, "No, I don't trust. No, I'm not doing it." And that's when I'm like, "Okay, it's time for the hag's monologue. We're just gonna kill him now." And I got like my first 8 strides into the monologue, and I'm now like leaning into the sprint part of the monologue, and Molly leans and goes, "I shoot her with my crossbow." God bless America.
Straight from gamers.
Yeah. You sly dog. You caught me monologuing. But yeah, so that was Wednesday. Saturday, did I game on Saturday? I thought I did something on Saturday. And I did get together with Friday. I got together with a real life friend. We had another board game evening. Which again is
nice.
it's so neat to feel some normalcy again. And then my Sunday night game got canceled because we had one of our players was really sick. So
saw that.
We played Mech Warrior.
Oh, nice.
Mech Warrior 5. And I know it's not D&D, but I got to tell you,
Yeah.
I saw the sunrise many a morning because I kept telling myself I'll go to bed after one more mission back in the day.
Uh-huh.
And I remember that. And then last night was really fun because we're prepping for this coming Saturday, and I got a chance to stream with that other pond, and she's a phenomenal content creator, and she's been building a D&D campaign for like the last 3 months for her and all of her friends that came over from Mixer.
Yeah.
And they just haven't like locked in when they're going to do it. So she's doing a lot of campaign building on stream, which is a great way to double dip. You know, if you're going to be doing the work, you may as well like talk yourself through. It's a lot of fun. So she and I made pre-gens for Saturday.
Yeah.
So that was my week.
And you never know what when it is a completely different soup when you're doing that kind of prep live, because you never know what idea is going to come from wherever. It just ping, sparks something, and you go off at another whole timeline. So my hair is so silky smooth that my headphones are like winging off it. I need a haircut so bad.
I hear you.
So if next week, if we come on and my head is just buzzed, you know that I didn't get my air conditioning fixed this week. Anyway, so we did have our Grognard game on Saturday night. It was the first one. It was first one in a few weeks, and really good. We're getting kind of to the end of a story arc. They found a medical like a cryo chamber with a 10-year-old girl in it, and it was in this debris and all this, and she's got some weird mysteries around her. And the cliffhanger that ended the last session and started this session was the little girl standing there, like rubbing her eye and saying, "Where's the bathroom?" And and them all like, and like one my bro, he's playing a little weasel person who's a bounty hunter, and he's like, she's gonna bite your face off, and he's always say every time, like every episode, some alien, or if anything's weird, he immediately says, "It's gonna chew your face off," and draws his gun and blam blam pew pew type thing. So of course everybody else was like completely waiting for him to just do the crossbow thing, like you said, just draw his guns and shoot the little girl. And it was just, and but yeah, it was good. It was a really great episode. We had a lot of fun with it, and yeah, I cannot wait. Within 2 episodes, we should be wrapping that storyline up. Hello, Mr. Killian23.
Well, again, also glad to have you over here joining us. Mr. Killian, if I remember correctly, is one of the mods over at the Raven Armed. and also a D&Der himself. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out this weekend. I'm starting to get my butterflies. I'll talk about that in the back end of things about it, because it's one of those. I feel like it's a high pressure one shot. One shots are either who cares what happens, or I only get one opportunity with these players. I have to make it count.
Yes.
That's why when I did this at the at UConn in a couple of years ago, I had that same, like, anyone who signs up to play a Ravenloft at a convention probably has never played it. So this will be their exposure to it. I can't blow it.
Right.
They go ahead.
Their first experience with Ravenloft, and you want to like hook for life, So yeah. Oh, I see. I get it.
Yeah. So we had a couple of things come through Twitter, more than our mailbag, but you can, for those that want to be part of the stream or want part of the podcast and want to send in questions, you are welcome to hit either of us at Lantern Noir or at Graybeard Tavern on the Twitter. We are always open to ideas for things to explore. You can also email us at oldtimertavern@gmail.com. And if you want to include a question as part of your review on Apple Podcasts or other podcast platforms of choice, we will happily take a peek at those as time allows. And we may even send you, if you leave the review and let us know how to track you down through one of those other platforms, we have stickers. I do not mind dropping those in the mail as a thank you. Not even for a $5, just for leaving us the review to make it a little easier for people to find our show. So, the question you found, let me see if I found it and I lost it, but I recall the essence of it.
All right.
And
I was just getting the knight's blade out for our good friend so he can, get quench
his thirst for blood.
Yeah.
Upon the blade, a shiny sticker. We give them away off. I'll do them a lot with the D&D shows too. If we get a large enough audience to justify the giveaway, I fire it off. It has to be enough to make it fun. But the question was, and it's like a lot of hypotheticals people throw at. Well, thank you for that, Ear. We're glad to have your support at the stream. A lot of these hypotheticals that get fired off. 18 gift subs. You are like the MVP around here, my friend.
You want me to give him a bell ring?
Give him a bell ring.
All right.
Bell ring for that?
Yeah. Sometimes we do a little thing where I take the small and I hit that guy in the face. Just for you. Thank you.
Sound. Like a lot of hypotheticals people throw at DMs. It's how would you handle this wish?
Yes.
And my first answer is usually, don't give players wishes. But the wish was, player gets wish and he wishes for there to be no more clerics. What do you do? And how does that factor in to the world, the game, if you have a cleric player character?
Right. So, it would be interesting because I would either ask the table or I would suggest something. Like I would say, okay, guys, this is what I want to do with this. Because you know me, I'm all about it's our story kind of deal. I mean, back in the old days, I would just freak out and run with it. But my idea would be, okay, do the gods still exist and just the clerics are gone? Or, I mean, is religion just gone? Is there no religion? It just goes away? Or is it the clerics themselves are no longer cleric classes, they're just priests? And I would kind of juggle that around. Now, my personal favorite would be if the gods still existed, but the clerics were all gone. And so all the churches, everything was gone, but the gods were like, what just happened? Like they were cut off from the existence, the prime material, whatever, suddenly. And so I think that would be a fun one to run with, and then have the gods trying to, so every deity would be that that ancient lost deity trying to come back to the world. And so they would be, trying to find avatars or old texts, or trying to intersect or weevil their way back into the world. And I think that would be an interesting time of chaos kind of way to explore that paradigm.
Yeah, because I think a lot of it comes down to how you handle how you're handling gods in your universe.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have very hands-on gods, like my wife played a campaign in college where the gods were like super hands-on-y, like having personal meetings with clerics all the time.
Yeah.
Wiping clerics out is like just gone. That completely, like, you have to address what happened to the gods.
Right.
As part of this. And the thing that I think is interesting with wish spells is I don't think wishes necessarily have to be in the form of I wished it and then it happened. As much as I wished it and then over time it happened. So like I think just having had a little more time to muse on it, I would probably say something like, okay, you make your wish and nothing appears to have changed. And then let the gods maybe be the ones to take a few steps back so that people start to lose faith. And in that act, that you have fewer and fewer of the faithful up until the moment where you don't have gods and have clerics anymore, because there is no faith in the gods and no one to lead in it. The only twist to that, and maybe this is a product of human behavior, humans don't exist long as atheists. Humanity as a thing doesn't not have some form of faith system, because as good as science is, and this is the way I look at it, science is often great about the what and the how, but not a lot on why. And faith usually seems to fill that gap. We know these things happen. Why? Well, because this happened. How did it happen? Well, these things triggered it. But what does it mean for the universe at large? We developed opposable thumbs. So now what? Like, why do we have opposable thumbs? And faith tends to be really good at filling that gap, which means I really would struggle with a world where it's like there's no faith. And if you have faith, you have people who find themselves called to organize faith or to lead faith or to proselytize faith or market faith, and you're going to have clerics.
Yeah. So if you're not 18, don't go anywhere near what I'm about to say. Patton Oswalt, comedian, does a bit called Sky Cake, and it's his take on the history of religion and how religion came into being was this sky cake. And by a guy being in a tribe of, cave people and getting tired of being picked on or beat up, or, the big, mighty warrior kind of guy who's always in charge because, well, he's the big guy with the big club and will just kill me if not. So he says that, his ancestor or whatever probably went, if you don't kill everyone, when you die, you go to a magic place in the sky and you can have all the cake you want. And so it's a thing where he's like, religion is like, it came about because someone wanted to be in power who knew that they needed to subvert the warrior class somehow to gain said power. And so there would, like you said, there would always be someone to fill that gap, and explain the whys and why is the sky blue? Well, the gods like blue. Blue is like the ocean, and the sky is like the gods' ocean. See, we are just adrift in there, blah blah blah. Giant turtleback, 4 elephants, whatever the theorem or explanation is,
Whatever science couldn't handle at the time, religion fills in.
Yes.
Except for, again, what is the purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Science will never give life purpose,
Yep.
unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on your point of view. What's interesting, too, Hidden Brain, Chakra Vidactum, is a sociologist who has a podcast and blog called The Hidden Brain. And he interviewed someone who wrote a book about the history of religion. And Oswald is not completely off the base. That if you track religious systems over the centuries,
Mm-hmm.
you see a progression in style of deity from a very, there are rules and you will follow them, to which you saw a lot in cultures that were just starting to discover trade with each other, and you needed another system to make everyone behave when they were strangers,
Yeah.
to a more benevolent, a more like, hey, everybody have a hug or two. It's all good. We're going to figure it all out. Look out for each other. You know, be good to each other kind of groovy gods are when you have a more advanced society as a general rule, where things tend to be a little more peaceful and a little more like, we can trust you to follow the rules because A, we're not all scavenging all the time, and B, we have other systems in place to make you follow rules. We've developed a constabulary.
Right.
We've developed a rotating guard. We've, we found systems. So you have those options. I think going back to the wish, one of the only ways I could swing it, honestly, would be something like the gods take a break.
Right.
And then talk to the player at the table and say, okay, well, you and I have a problem. And that's the cleric player. Like, you and I got to figure this out. Because I want you to keep having fun, but we got to figure out how to get rid of clerics. What do you think we should do?
Yeah. And I wanna take what you're saying, because I've got a great example of it. They say, I would love to see a non-follower paladin. Since oaths do not require belief in God, it would be interesting if you would get a fantasy science-based paladin. They have written into the rules that you can be a paladin that has no religion, no God, no follower. It is their belief and their faith and their tenets and their oath that give them their powers. So they have kind of gone that route. And so I kind of like the idea of having a paladin who they have faith in whatever their oath is, other humans, the good of people, whatever their self-righteous kind of fervor leads them to think. That would be pretty sweet to have something along those lines.
Yeah, and that is something that's another one of those newer things that they did with the paladins, to say, okay, let's kick it up a notch and give them some more powers and opportunities with all of this, which I really dig.
Stripped away the alignment requirements, and well,
the alignment requirements were always deeply problematic. When you think about the idea of a paladin is supposed to be a champion of a cause, how do you do that and then say, but they have to be lawful good causes?
Right. Yep.
And I get where they were going. They wanted paladin to equal knight in shining armor.
Right.
And I think, in some ways, I could say you should be a lawful paladin. I think it's hard to swear an oath and be chaotic neutral.
Right.
I think that gets a little bit weird. But now that I've said it, I can see a chaotic good paladin.
Yep.
The ideals of a very bohemian.
Yes. I rob from the rich and give to the cheerleaders. The criminally insane.
No.
Just stop. The poor, maybe the poor.
We're men in tights.
Exactly.
So there's that angle too. I do think there will be a lot of room once that wish fired off with that very creative one to talk to the table, especially that one cleric player though, and say, look, what do you think?
Yeah. And even do a thing where fundamentally they don't change. I mean, because you'd want to talk to them and really work through it. But I think that, you could do a deal where they don't fundamentally change, and they still have their spells and their powers and everything. Except now, everyone they run into, and every time they cast a spell, the people of the world go, "Whoa, what is that?" You know,
How'd
what
that
did you
work?
just?
How'd that work without a god?
Yeah, or what kind of sorcerer are you? You know, type thing, or you know, witch. They're a witch. You know,
How do you know she's a witch?
turned me into a newt.
A newt?
I got better. So
Well, it gets
yeah.
to a big question, and this is one that I think we talked about magic one time. I don't remember if it was a whole show on it. We just riffed on it for a stretch.
Yeah.
But a lot goes into how in your world you see the way divine magic works.
Mhm.
Is it an article of faith, and therefore your faith becomes manifest because this is a fantasy world where you can do that? Or
Right.
is it a product of a divine thing going, here, let me push that for you?
Right. We'll give you here is my presence. A bit of my power is now yours.
Yeah, like when a priest or cleric casts Revivify,
Mhm.
is that the god has interceded because they prayed? Or is that the prayers are so powerful on their own they spontaneously create a miracle,
Right.
as it were?
Right. Now, or even is the weave is the weave the sheen of magic, and then the divine is yet another weave effect. They're drawing from this, so there's all this belief. The humans have all this belief and fervor, or you know, psychic energy or whatever that feeds into the universe that creates a divine magic pool for certain individuals to draw from. There's a book series, The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. I think it's Jim Butcher.
Butcher, yep.
And one of my favorite bits, because I'm an atheist, and but I love magic and religion and where they take it and they make it like real. Like I love Supernatural and Hellboy and Constantine and all these things where, okay, what if devils were real, you know, and that type thing. And you know, there's
they
holy
are.
warriors
You should have
who
met my ex.
yeah, there you go. I've met a few myself. The but in one of the books, I will never forget, Dresden picks up Michael's holy sword, and I get goosebumps. I get goosebumps every time I think about it. He picks up Michael's holy sword, and he's like, "Whoa," because he as a wizard feels that faith magic, and he's like, "Wow, that's powerful." You know, he taps into the divine weave, as it were, and it's like, you know, just overwhelmed by it. And I love that holy spirit sort of energy. So
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that's one of those where there's so many different angles you can take. I'm a big wish spells. I have a weird history with, because I remember people spending hours and hours and hours crafting the perfect wish, and I've always been like, that's such a like. I don't think that was ever the intention.
right.
But yeah, and I appreciate that ear. And it's weird to see how you can believe certain things and not other things, and still find entertainment in either the study of them as like an academic study, versus the appreciation for how it could work in a fantasy setting. Especially with the idea that maybe you don't. If you think about it, in a polytheistic society, which most Dungeons and Dragons games are, faith is a weird thing, because you can have faith. You have faith in one god, and it's weird to have faith in more than one, but you acknowledge more than one exists.
Well, and the fact that, and
Or,
this is
yeah.
one that I was an anthropology history major at one point. And it was really interesting. I have a friend who was and has a master's degree in philosophy, and it's always interesting when we would play in a game, because he would have this sort of different take on how the religion and stuff fit into the world, and how the fact that, well, of course you believe in the other gods, because I mean the evil priest over there cast freaking lightning at us. I mean, how could that is proof that there is gods and God. They manifested right there. I the druid or the cleric cast revivify on Grungar the barbarian, and he rose from the dead. Of course there's gods.
Yeah. You and I are chatting over here in the chat. He brought up that the Greeks have had 12 gods and 200 lesser deities. And I said, well, yes, and the Romans stole them. And he replied, exactly. Which is fine, because they added more drama and made them more interesting.
yes, they did.
And that's, the Romans, they were freaking good. For all the bad they did, they were really good at finding they were like the original Borg.
Yes.
They found what each culture had worked out, and then they adopted it in and went, let's do that. That worked. Let's do that. Remove the power from the female gods. Yeah, that is true. The Roman female deities were definitely not as cool as the Greek versions, which just speaks to the the inherent lack of faith in themselves that the Romans had among their men. Lack of confidence that they had to pull the women down. You can't have women gods.
Right.
But
the originators of toxic masculinity.
Yep. Not gonna argue there. Not gonna argue at all.
We march north and we fight those Gauls, and they're like 6 foot tall and like 200 pounds. They're monsters, with all their mustaches, and they eat nothing but cows. How weird. Anyway.
Yeah, that worked. That worked.
I would like to tell a wish story.
Go for it.
So we played, and I think it was in the series with the Palace of the Silver Princess, something Crystal Cave. Can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I'm sure the module is in a box somewhere here. We played it, and at the end of it, the caretaker of the Crystal Cave gave us each a wish. Now, I don't know if this is in the module or if it was what the DM gave us at the time. Well, I was playing a Cavalier 2nd edition, blah, blah, blah. I held my wish. I asked, may I hold my wish and, at some time later on make it? And the little leprechaun-y, semi-planar being, whatever, said, oh, of course, you may keep your wish. And so everybody else was like, +5 defender, they +6 armor, whatever. So I held mine. So 2 years later, in real life, in real time, we were still playing the same campaign. 2 years later, we're like, I don't know, 15th level or something like that. We're fighting Asmodeus. The wizard throws up a wall of iron in front of Asmodeus. Asmodeus starts to push it down. My character has the belt of whatever giant strength, and he's holding it up. Asmodeus is on the other side, casts heat metal, immune to heat damage, so he's still pushing on it. My poor Cavalier of Ivy. He's holding it. He's burning. He's dying. Asmodeus is about to come through. The metal is red hot, kind of thing. We're about to be F. All of a sudden, in game, it clicked, and I was like, oh, acting, doing the thing, and then I went, I wish, and everybody went, uh-oh, what? And I went, I wish you would return to your plane of origin, never to return here. And And everybody at the table, it was one of those D&D, holy crap, the Fae, you saved that wish, you know. And of course the DM was like, oh, you so got me. And so he's like, wham, you know, Asmodeus is gone for 666 days. You will, you know, not be, tortured by Asmodeus. And so yeah, it was really cool that, you know, the wish came in at a clutch moment, that we saved it and were, you know, able to do a thing. It was really good because that was the type of character he was, that the material things weren't what mattered. So yeah, so it was fun and good. And so I will say, as advice to those of you who want to like rip out a wish and be like, I want the axe of Dwarvish Lords or whatever, think on it. Maybe it might be something to put in your back pocket for that clutch moment, you know.
And then I'll tack on to that, as the guy who's constantly trying to come up with good challenges and interesting story arcs. Let your DM have some story arc before you pop the wish to end it. You know, like if you know you've got a pocket wish and the DM has set up a 6-week campaign of tracking down this demon and getting rid of him, and the demon appears, it's like, I will be a plague upon you for the coming fortnight. You will rue the day you stood against me. Now go try to block my machinations. And you go in at like 15 minutes into session 1. I wish you back to your plane of existence. I'm really sorry. We're gonna have some harsh words for each other.
Flip the table.
Like, okay, so what are we doing tonight now?
Yep.
Just saying. Be cool onto the rest of the table with what you do with that. And if you have never seen it, you have to watch Gamers 2 all the way through. There is a wish in it. It is an amazing moment of role playing at the fictional game table in the movie. I highly recommend it. I can say no more because I cannot spoil it.
Right. You gotta look.
Its awesomeness is in the fact that it is what it is. And look forward to, we're going to be doing at some point probably a watch along audio track.
Yeah. And I wanted to say to Mr. Killian there, Journey Quest, the character Glorian is the best. Killing is honor. You know, he is an insane character, one of my favorite characters in any show I've ever seen. So yeah, if you've never seen Journey Quest, check it out. Again,
same people.
Yeah, same people, same production.
Dead Gentleman
company.
Productions. Yep.
So
fun people. We had another thing that we taught that came up as a question at the beginning of last week's podcast that came in the chat, and I went, that's a great idea. Let's pin it and talk about it after the review. And then our review ran the entire stream, so we didn't have a chance to come back to it. And that is, what is our individual takes on monster player characters?
Okay. You want me to start?
Oh, by all means, take the table.
All right. I adore playing monster characters. I have pretty much for I want to say the last everything but Masks, where we were superheroes, so we had to be human to begin with. And even then I almost played the monstrous playbook in there, but everything for like almost a year, if it was an option to play a monster, I played a monster. I was in a charity one-shot. I played a goblin roguificer, a goblin rogue artificer, split levels, multi-class. That was a lot of fun. Before that, I played Hugurk, the bugbear. That was in the what's it called? Acquisitions Incorporated campaign we ran over on Indoor Adventures, and in that I was Hugurk, and he was the cartographer. So they were all like these. It's like The Office, but with D&D. That's the Acquisitions Incorporated thing. Is these like you're all part of this horrible company that is all about acquiring treasure and being adventurers. So it's like an Adventurers Guild, the game kind of deal. So yeah, I adore playing monster characters. One of as a matter of fact, Indoor Adventure and LB Hack'em Up, two super friends of the show we love very much, their very first streamed game was with me, and all three of us were monsters. We were monster characters. I was Whoosh, the kobold sorcerer, basically a pyromancer, kobold. And then LB was a very shy, Wan T, and so snake person, and Indoor was a dragonborn because basically the Wan T and the kobold had just come out in Volo's Guide to Monsters as player characters, and so we were all cranked about it. And that was over on Sir Lucian's channel. So yeah, so I adore playing monsters because, again, I've been playing for 44 years now, and so playing another elf is just even though there's like 26 kinds of elves now, and I still need to play some of them because I've been working my way through all the races and all the classes in 5th edition. When I was doing like 5 streams a week, it was pretty easy and I was ripping through them. But now that I'm doing one campaign at a time, it's much harder.
I hear you. Now, what's interesting is I am coming at this from the exact opposite side. When I'm running a game and someone goes, "Oh, can I be a kobold?" My next question is, what's wrong with a halfling? Well, I really want to have that tie-in with being a dragon. That's the most important part. Yeah, so Dragonborn. And it's like, because I've had those experiences where people seem to want to take a monster character. I've been ruined by negative experiences.
Gotcha.
Where somebody will say, "I can't wait. I really want to play a goblin in the game." I'm like, I don't know. I guess we'll try it. And then we're an hour into session 1, and he's consciously like picking fights with the guards because I'm a goblin. It's what I do. Like, yeah, but you'd be a dead goblin if you did it for more than an hour. Like, you're a goblin who survived level 0.
Right.
You can't do that. Well, but it's what my character would do. Oh God.
We're back at that.
We're back at that. Well, and it's interesting too because I'm the person who I'm not big on. I'm not good at keeping track of all the different quirks that go into all the different races. And so some of like the new ones that are now not monstrous races, they're just races. It's like, okay, and you can do what again? Oh, okay, that'll be interesting to work around. So I'm a bit more Tolkien-esque. I like my mostly humans, maybe a couple of halflings, an elf or two to make it interesting, and the one dwarf that, for whatever reason, is not digging for treasure.
I get too much of it. It's piling up right back there. I got it.
Yeah, but that's kind of where I'm at. I think a lot of it though comes down to like the players. If we're having fun.
Don't you have a tiefling and a genasi and stuff in your current Candlekeep game?
Yeah.
I mean, I
yeah.
4th edition, I absolutely love the commercials with the the tiefling and the gnome, and they've switched, and the gnome is like, "Rah, I'm a monster," and all that, and because I will say at first I was like, I don't know, I thought like when 4th hit and tiefling, okay, yeah, for me it wasn't much of a big deal because back in 2nd edition they had written in, I think it was Dragon Magazine or one of the Splat books, there were Cambions, which were half demons, which are half fiends, where that's where the tiefling, the whole tiefling line came from, was back then, and through that. And so so I was ready for that one. And then Dragonborn, we had Draconians because of Dragonlance, and so I was really
really fun. By the way, if you're not familiar with Draconians, they were Dragonborn bad guys, and they all had a quirk that they all died in a really inconvenient way. So like the first round, they turned to stone when they died, which is fine if you don't have your sword in them at the time.
Right. Yeah.
Which is where the meme of things like, Rapunzel swinging her frying pan, going, wow, this thing's really cool. And then it cuts to the next picture's Tika wailing, going, been there, done that. Because in the book,
That's right.
they figured it out. So she starts killing draconians with a cast iron frying pan. And it's like, oh yeah, we all, every kid who read Dragonlance in the 80s was torn with so who do you pick? Kitiara or Tika? You can only have one. Which one you going with?
Yeah.
And that said a lot about you as a person.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a dragon magazine used to always do an April Fool's episode where they would take all the worst questions and repost them on April Fool's. And one of them was, if you were to take two wingless Bozak Draconians and fire them from a trebuchet, blah blah blah, how much damage would they do? Just like, stop.
Yeah.
It was really it was really good timing for 5th edition to come out when it did. My girls were really little, but because I used to be a very, I want my D&D Tolkien S, and I want a dark, gritty fantasy world, and so on and so forth, and all that. But I really started to change with 5th, where I was like, let's have some, I finally allowed Warhammer fantasy battle or fantasy RPG infect my my D&D. And I was like, guns, yes. Airships, why not? You want to ride a griffin? How are you going to get the griffin? I put it up to them to do these things and such. I've really loosened up.
Which is interesting too, because one of the guys playing tomorrow night made an artificer and really wanted guns. And I was like, I don't know about guns. I'm not sure how I feel about guns. Well, they're in the books. Like, well, yeah, because and here's what got me. The amazing artist who did this amazing graphic we have down below that represents our podcast, Danae Keener of DanaeKeener.com, is also playing in it. And I didn't catch it, but when she joined my D&D Beyond campaign, all of her source books came into the campaign source material. So I'm like, I don't know where you're getting that there are guns, because I've been running games for a year now on D&D Beyond. I haven't seen any guns or anything. And then I look, I'm like, what are all these races available to me in character creation? Why? What manner of magic is this? And it's like, oh, because I know it's not Momo. I adore her, but she hasn't played D&D in forever. And I know it's not Liz, because she doesn't have anything on D&D Beyond, because she doesn't do online gaming usually, except with me. So I'm like, where are these coming? Like, that's where. But I'm still like, part of my brain with guns, and this could be a whole episode onto itself, goes to why would you experiment with blast powder when you can hire a mage?
Again, yeah. It was because I really have always loved Warhammer and Warhammer Fantasy but I always kept the two apart, mostly because most of my D&D players, particularly Muddy and my bro, are more Tolkien-esque in their D&D, and it's really hard it was really hard to bring my chaos magic, and of course dwarves have guns because they don't have magic, because they're dwarves.
That's what they do.
So yeah, it was a lot of the trepidation was from there.
Well, it's funny because I mained on World of Warcraft a dwarven hunter for years, and I refused to take a bow. Like, I turned down chances to roll on epic bows because I'm like, I'm not using a bow. It doesn't look, the dwarf plus bow animations look wrong. because they've got, their chest is as wide as their arms are long.
Mhm.
They
Yep.
can't hold a bow and do a full pull because it's not going to get back to their faces. Their chests are too big. And so I get it. And I did kind of relent, and I'm not going to give them too hard a time because statistically, they should. This is what's weird too. They should work like a crossbow, except realistically, even a trained soldier can't reload a pistol and shoot it in the same combat round, in the same 6 seconds.
Yep.
It just can't. If you even allow for a second to aim it, you need 3 more combat rounds on average to reload it.
Right.
Which is one of those weird, like, D&D takes a lot of liberties with the mechanics, and I know that's what happens. But
so, yeah, let's pin that and maybe
come back to monster races.
but let's definitely come back to it because I've got tons to say about it. Because of course, I do indeed like me some shooty goodness and whatnot, and so we'll definitely come back to that.
We will come back to that for sure. And you're right too. My Candlekeep game, I have a half elf, a full elf, and 2 genasi.
Oh, it's 2 genasi.
2 genasi.
One was a tiefling. Anyway.
No, it's a water and a fire genasi, and they're the ones that are crushing on each other.
That's right.
And they don't admit it out loud, and it's really sweet because they are clearly crushing on each other.
Nice.
And they play it so darn well, and I think that's why nobody liked Gerald. Is like they could tell Gerald was there to flirt with Ember, and like, no, Ember has a girlfriend. She doesn't want a boyfriend, let alone Gerald.
I did like that it has come into your memes in your Discord chat that now Gerald has his own memes people are making for it.
Oh yeah. I truly appreciate the anti-Gerald memes just because it shows that it just shows a level of commitment that I find highly flattering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I get it, and I think most of my trepidation with monster races is not so much the why do you what's wrong with the Tolkien races as much as just a fear as a DM I'm going to get blindsided by random abilities that I didn't know that they had, or that the story arcs are going to get derailed. Because again, I'm more of a roller coaster writer than a sandboxer.
Right.
Are going to get derailed by somebody going, but I'm a hobgoblin. I can do this, and I'm going to do that because that's what hobgoblin tradition says I need to do, and I can find access. I was like, well, wait. Well, where'd that come from? Mm-hmm. Well, it's right here in this source book. It's in this little sidebar on page 305. That's my own limitations as a DM. I kind of know where my comfort zones are. Yeah. So I get very nervous about stuff like that. That said, if everyone's having fun and the story continues,
Yeah. Sometimes. So here's something to definitely talk about, and it was a thing that now D&D is changing and coming around to, but how monstrous races fit into your world, it would be something to discuss. Yes, you can be a goblin, but sorry, in X, Y, and Z cities, goblins are second or third rate citizens, or no, because of the Battle of Grumgum Mountain, this dwarven town does not allow goblins. I mean, D&D itself sets itself up for racism, so speciesism, I guess. But anyway, so yeah, that would be something else to talk about. With that, or to have characters who want to be an outsider and be like, oh yeah, of course I want to be a fire genasi, but I want to be like the fire genasi. There's maybe 4 in the whole Panacea continent here, that type thing. And so, I'm even going to take the far traveler background, and they really want to play that up. And so I think that would be the
watch comes into the tavern. We're looking for the fire genasi. Oh, Her? Yeah. Okay. Because there's one in Waterdeep.
Right. Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
and that makes where D&D has done an interesting has both made life interesting and challenging for itself, because when they stripped away the race's inherent alignments,
Mhm.
which I think is a good decision. I think modern climate being what it is, it's better to say, look, people's good or evil is based on the actions of the individual or the adherence to a society's rules, which themselves may be good or evil, but no one is inherently one or the other.
Yeah.
It does also then create a lot more work for, like, okay, so why does your town hate goblins again?
Right.
And then how do you play off the, well, it's a pretty justified concern because this whole goblin nation has done X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
It's a big ask to ask people to, like, turn a blind eye to the goblin coming into town.
Yeah. The I can't remember. The Man Who Would Be King is the name of a movie. It's got Michael Keaton and not Michael Keaton.
Michael Caine?
Michael Caine, thank you. Alfred from the Nolan Batman. And Sean Connery in it.
Oh, wow.
And in it, the two of them are like British colonial soldiers who break away, you know, after their service, and they go to like a made-up nation, some Afghanistan type thing, you know, Kazakhstan sort of deal, and they're going along in their misadventures in that time period in the 1800s and whatnot, and every tribe they come across, it's the people up the river. Oh, very evil people, very evil people. They pee in the river when we do our laundry. And then they get to the next village, and it's the people up the river that are always the evil people. You know, every village is more evil because they pee in the river when we're doing laundry, you know, today. So it really is society perception and causal effect, you know. There's a storyline, Fallout is a great example. I am the chosen one. I have left the village, and everybody you meet in the first Fallout is like, oh, you're from the village. Yeah, sure, great. And they treat you horribly. And in my head, I'm like, oh, everyone who comes from the village must be a real jerk to, you know, everyone, because everybody knows who they are. You're some savage who came out of the mountains, and you just take stuff, and you look in every box, and every box you open, you just take everything out of it, you know. So it's sort of a weird, it's hard to do, but very cool. Well, and that is a big consideration.
It's interesting too, because on one of my Facebook groups, every so often there'll be a little bit of a flare up of the what's wrong with the good old days of kick down the door, kill the monsters, take their stuff. And I do think that one of the challenges that's come up is if you're not careful when you're running a game, you find yourself spending a lot of putting the energy into, well, how do we justify killing all of these bad guys? How do we justify enjoying a game where it's a tactical combat where our goal is to kill the other side? And you have to have this, like, there has to be some weird conceit in here somewhere to go, but we can all agree these gnolls are bad and they deserve what's happening is justified. Yeah. And then depending on your player group, which I think I'm fairly lucky in that most of my players are not deep political scientists who really want to see a couple of good UN studies onto the actual nature of gnoll culture. They're like, okay, gnolls are bad, we're good, let's kill them. Yeah. Because I do think that's one of the weird twists in this is that sense of, like, either you have to have more conceit from the players or more GM work to say, go kill the gnolls. And everyone go, yes, we should go kill the gnolls, and not spend 3 game sessions. So, like, but can we negotiate a treaty maybe? Did we encroach on their tribal lands and they're just retaliating in instinctively? Are we the baddies?
Right. What? Why do we have these armbands and this crisscrossy symbol thing?
The skull. The skull is never a good thing, is it?
What is? Are we the bad guys? And that's usually what in most newer games, it's either they are directly. I try when I DM. They are either directly attacking you, or they are aligned with a apocalyptic bad guy.
Yeah.
And so it's very, uh, the Knolls are Nazis. That's usually the way they have chosen to be Nazis. They are not poor conscripts put into the Wehrmacht and thrust forward into American guns.
How do you handle an undead as a good character though when they have native enemies? Well, the undead is itself an interesting. Okay, I'm really gonna trip out your brains.
Mm-hmm.
I would be more likely to be on board with an undead PC than I would a goblin PC. And here's the thing. In every bit of lore I've ever seen, very few undead opt into it. Like there's liches, there's some vampires, not all.
Right.
And that's about it. Like liches very much opt in.
Yeah.
Most major vampire villains totally opt in, but like lesser vampires, a lot of them didn't pick it. Like they went out for a date and their date got murdered, and then they woke up in a coffin and they're like, crap, now what?
Right.
I'm really hungry. Ooh, look, neck, nom nom nom. I think it's very possible to have a very sociable now bear in mind, I hated Twilight with a burning passion. And someone said, well, if you hate it so much, why don't you write your own vampire novel and do better? And for one summer, I did. And I wrote it was a web novel. So I put it out every week about Regan Fairchild, vampire, and CPA. and it was, she was just doing her best. She was just doing her best. And dealing with, and I was really proud of what I did with her as my version of vampire. I was really proud of, because I ditched a lot of things I found problematic, and I found ways to make, like her gift was called the Silver Tongue, where she could talk her way out of any situation as long as she brought up money.
Oh, okay.
So
right,
like she talked her way out of getting murdered by a bunch of hunters by convincing them that their entertainment per dollar was not going to be the return on investment when spent on bullets to shoot her. If they all bought PlayStation 4s, they would get 8 times the entertainment hour per dollar. And when she slipped out the back, they all had their phones out and they were all trying to order the latest PlayStation bundle.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
And that's how I wrote that arc for her. Was like that was her bloodline's power, is the ability to talk through manipulations. But I think that's the weird thing with the undead though, is you have that sense of like, well, what do you do if you're an intelligent undead? You truly do get to choose, and you could go back to being good. I mean, how many movies and TV shows have we seen has the Louis vampire for every Lestat? Right. Where they're trying to do the right thing. Yep. What do they do? What do they eat? Aren't they going to run out of bad entities? Well, again, it depends on how you define your vampires. Again, like the Louis of the world from Interview with the Vampire will feed on animal blood. Yeah. More than human, because they know that it's wrong to eat people. Yep. Now that varies a bit. I think Angel on Buffy tended to kind of get a little gray with what he would nom on.
And there were always like big quarts of pig's blood and stuff around there. One of the best episodes was when
Spike?
No, Christina Carpenter's character. I can't remember his name. Charisma.
No. It's Charisma Carpenter, who played Cordelia.
Cordelia. Thank you. She has been temporarily turned vampire, and she's standing in the kitchen with the fridge open, and she's like, glar, glar, and there's just blood running everywhere. And Angel walks in and goes, "Oh God, really? Is that what I look like?" he's just taken aback by like, ooh,
Oh, see, my
you
favorite
know.
was Spike taking the novelty mug out of the microwave to
Oh,
drink blood out of it. He had like a I love librarians
right,
novelty mug.
right.
And it's like, yeah, bad human blood is okay for good vampires. And that's weird. And the Von Richten's guide, I almost did this for my Wednesday night game because
Mm,
Liz kind of like looked like she was dumping on me to have to make a character for her. And I'm like, she's
mm,
going to get stuck with this reborn.
right,
She's
got
going to
it.
get like the undead character, race character because she's
Mm-hmm.
making me make her character. So I'm going to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Um, but they introduced that idea of the make an elven reborn where it's like
Mm-hmm.
you were dead, now you're not. What do you do? And there's
Yeah.
some good role play possibilities there.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous stuff you can do with it. And I think that's, I mean, both you and I played many, many sessions of vampire, type games, in the World of Darkness system.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with it, particularly vampires. They are either the Louis or the Lestat. They don't want to be there. They don't want to be eating people. They didn't ask for this life. Or the I love being a vampire, And so, yeah. And do you need human blood? Do you need, it depends on your world, vampire biology, physics, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Now,
So,
that said, I would also caution a group that the undead also represent somewhere somebody broke the natural order, which is
mhm.
very different than saying, let's be forgiving of a goblin PC because this goblin isn't like all the other goblins. Yes, every goblin that's come to town has been part of a raiding party that raped and pillaged and murdered, but this one's a good one. Whereas an undead, like maybe an intelligent white, perhaps as a monster race, you then bump into but that white only exists because somebody pulled them out of a grave and put the whatever is making them intelligent back in them.
Right.
Or is something completely different driving that body, and that's a little goofed up.
Yeah.
And you're going to find that it's much easier for the world to react to go, yeah, no, we're going to have constant stress from that, which in some groups,
Yeah.
that can be kind of fun.
Yeah. Particularly if it's a part of a story arc or it, becomes if it's in a one shot, if it's the clutch thing that's going to, spread them apart, that, there's only one way to get through this trap. And fortunately, you've got the guy who doesn't have to breathe, who can pass through the miasma, the death
Mm-hmm.
miasma fog, and because he's already dead. So
Yeah, and those are ways to make it work. And it's weird. I'm much more on board with those, but I think part of that goes to my history with people who say I want to play a monster race. My history is often tied to, unfortunately, players who have also been, I've done everything else and none of it was fun. I need to find a way to keep having fun. And sometimes that cannot be a great spot to come to the table from.
right.
My
Yep.
history is not as kind because I didn't know you years and years ago. I mean, just to be honest, the people I've played with have had I got to be completely different this time out. It's been,
Yeah.
okay, just don't break it for the rest of us. Well, I'll make sure I have fun. I know you will.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I can see it. I can see it. So.
yeah, but and what's neat though is that I think they are trying harder and harder to keep adding stuff in and play testing it to say, look, this is another twist on it. Play with that, and there's some neat stuff even before I had access to all the monster races. Just the player's handbook.
Yep.
They've added is Gnome back as a race, by the way? Did they bring them back for PCs?
Yes. Yeah. They're
Okay.
in fifth. They're a base
They're back.
a base species race, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Humans have halflings, dwarves have gnomes.
Yes. So I really enjoyed Pathfinder's take on the gnomes.
Oh,
I
go
yeah,
on.
because Pathfinder just went, let's have gnomes. Let's make them like World of Warcraft gnomes. just they're they're like the Kender version of they kept halflings, hobbity, and Tolkien-esque, and they took gnomes and went, be Kenders. You're tinker people. You're you have purple hair because you're partial fae, and you got big ponytails, or a blue skin, whatever you want. Go, run with the gnomes. And like I said, they made them much more World of Warcrafty, and so I had a lot of fun with them. Just making new and interesting characters in Pathfinder.
Indeed. They've always done a neat job with playing with those. Okay, so we only got through 2 questions this time. So hopefully we get a couple more questions over the next couple of weeks, because this is fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to come to people where they're asking for some tips and bringing our 70 some odd years of Dungeons and Dragons experience out for everyone to pick.
Yeah.
So that would be that. I'm looking forward to more of these. And if you have emails that you want to send in, you want to be part of the stream or the show, and you have questions, the email address again is oldtimertavern@gmail.com. And you can also hit up at Lantern Noir or at Greybeard Tavern with other thoughts. We are both relatively active on the Twitter. I'm starting to get more and more of late. It seems safer than Facebook these days.
and I'm there pretty much every day. Yeah. Vacation, I slacked off a bit, but yeah, I'm almost always there for some good tweeting interactions and whatnot.
Yeah. So what's on your plate for the coming week?
So Thursday is supposed to be the finale of our Masks game. So we're gonna have the big reveal that my love and my rival for my bull character are crushing on each other, and see how poor Cody takes that and stuff. We've already we didn't plan anything. We just said, okay, is this cool? And just sort of we're gonna play it out. So we'll see if that happens. That's Thursdays, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time over on Indoor Adventures. And that's Mass. And then I'm back on Sunday morning, where I'm playing Griftlands right now. We're winding down seriously fast. Smith, a bad thing happened. I wasn't paying attention. I walked into a bad situation, got technically killed, and you only have one do-over in a character run, and I used my do-over and I started the day again. And so this time I chose to murder my sister, and
Ouch.
But it's so silly, and it's good art and animation, and it really is lighthearted murder, I guess, if there is such a thing. And yes, Smith is the character that I love to hate. So yeah, we'll be wrapping that up Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then back here on Tuesday for more great Old Timer Tavern fun.
Lighthearted murder. Indeed. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm geeked because I have new players tomorrow night. It's fun to sit down with some people I haven't played with before, which will be a lot of fun. We're going to do the first chapter and a half of Waterdeep Dragon Heist.
Oh, yes.
We're not going to do the whole campaign.
Right.
The more I look, I'm like, I don't want to do the whole campaign with the same group. But we're going to be, if you're all familiar, the plan is over 3 weeks to get up through Troll Skull Manor.
Perfect.
Which will have an interesting twist to it. They're not going to inherit a tavern quite the same way.
Yeah.
If you've played it before, you're familiar. I think I have a fun twist on it. So I'm looking forward to that. And again, the artist, Danae Keener, who did of DanaeKeener.com, who did the art below, is going to be one of my players. And then Saturday is the big, I've been working on this for months, the big one-shot with Raven Armed, the Reluctant Hermit, The Other Pond, and Linarius. We're going to run the Ravenloft as it was originally intended. So
awesome.
Ravenloft first edition, but with 5th edition rules.
Perfect.
So that'll be a lot of fun. And hopefully we'll get back to Curse of Strahd on Sunday.
And you're hoping that you'll be able to run that at like I forget, Dragon Con or a con at some point, right?
The Ravenloft one, I want to run
Yeah.
that at every convention I go to.
Nice.
That's my plan, is when we get back into a regular con season. I looked at Gen Con this summer because they're having it in August, and I said I can't do it yet. I'm not ready.
Yep.
I'm just not ready yet.
Yep.
UConn is in November. It's a much smaller con in Southeast Michigan, but it's one of my friends helps run it. That will probably be my first con going back out.
Nice.
It's a chance to go to that one because it's little, it's local, and it's that'll be the start.
I've got the shirt. I should say something about it.
What's that?
We said something about cons. Marmalade Dog is a Michigan convention. It's on the campus of Western Michigan University.
Beautiful campus.
We started that convention. Me and Tavern Sparrow started that in 1991 or 1992, and it's a student-run organization. It's one of the largest mostly role play conventions in Michigan. And I would say, if you can, check it out. I think it is www.marmaladedog.org. So you can always check that out and see there. And if ever you want to meet me, I'm always there.
All right. Well, that sounds like a great plan. If you're one of our podcast listeners, thank you for coming, for downloading the show. Please consider leaving us a review on iTunes or Spotify to help other people find the podcast. We will be back here again next week, again, putting out an episode for you. So check your stream. We're at the same channel with the same great D&D content. So until your next download, stay safe. And for everybody that's here live, where should we ship you out? Because sharing is caring, and I do feel obligated somewhat to send you somewhere. Where should we go? Ooh, that button's not working. Darn it, I didn't check that button. Well, my Stream Deck has like a raid button that doesn't always work.
No.
It's a lot. I got a lot of moving parts going on over here.
I'm so glad that you have the working parts, and I can just be a diva and be here.
Mm-hmm.
Just be
let's see.
a diva and be here.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, quiet you. Don't make. Oh, well, there we go. I'm gonna send you guys over to one of my players from Saturday.
Ooh. Very nice.
That other pond is currently playing Fortnite, and she does a crap ton of D&D work on her stream, and she's looking forward to being a D&D. She's going to be DMing, but I think I'm going to keep adopting her as a player over the coming weeks, because she's just a fun, like all DMs. Oh, wait, I don't have to prep. I can just play. That is an incredibly attractive proposition.
Raid.
Okay. So we'll send you over there. And thank you for coming by. The video will be up on YouTube tomorrow. And I love how they keep not liking that. Yeah, she's really prepped up. Sissy, who's another streamer, and a few other people are all going to be players in her game. And she's been putting so much work into prepping them.
Yeah.
She needs to get them committed to a date. That's the hardest part with all of this, is just locking your players into and this is when we're going to play. That is the sticker. And that's why, the thing on Saturday, I'm like, we all have a really crazy schedule. I'm just glad we made one work.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll go show her a little bit of affection and everything on the back end of this. So any parting thoughts as the raid timer ticks down?
Yeah, get out there and don't be afraid to, I'm a monster. Unless your DM is hesitant.
Amen to that. We'll see you all next time.